How's it going, everyone? T-Rob here with the Biz Pulse, and I've got a great show tonight. I've got a show that I think will teach people things that they should know, and that's some video strategies for business growth. And I think video is, I think, one of the hottest things there is right now. And we've got Nick Niehaus with us. He's the CEO and head trainer of Business Video School. So, I mean, he's going to talk to us about, what he's seeing, what they're doing, and probably get you moving on using video in your businesses. So I'm going to quit talking. I'm going to go ahead and bring Nick in here.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having
me. Yeah, good, man. So, I mean, first off, tell everybody who Nick is and what Nick does.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, my I guess biggest claim to fame is I'm kind of like a video guy. I've been called that a lot. So I run a company called Business Video School. We teach primarily real estate agents, but really ultimately small business owners how to use video. So we talk about video from a marketing perspective. I got lots of ideas for you there, but I really see video as a form of communication. So we really focus on, one-to-one video messaging, using video for customer service. There's all kinds of different opportunities there. And I've been, working in the marketing realm pretty much my whole career, even since college. And, really just love helping small business owners understand, the right ways to communicate with the people they're trying to attract as customers. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Very cool. So I'm really excited to have you because, I obviously do video. And that was the first thing I told you kind of before we came on. Hey, don't judge me, man. Just help me, man. Help me.
Right. No, you got a good setup. I like it.
Yeah. So with that being said, you talked about the real estate market, of what you guys are doing there. Let's dive into that. Cause real estate market's huge, all over the country. So what are you guys actually doing for real estate agents in general?
Yeah, so we teach real estate agents, pretty comprehensively all the different ways they could or should be using video is kind of how I think about it. So, a lot of ways we find that people, when they, especially in the real estate industry, for whatever reason, there's just a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety. I think people see video as kind of this very public experience, and who's going to see it? And my hair's out of place. I don't like how I look.
Right.
And, we've kind of seen a lot of these folks, build this into this sort of mountain to overcome. And so what we help a lot of our students do is really help them realize, like, they should take a step back and realize, hey, this is just a new way we talk to people. This is just a new way to have a conversation that's as close to a face-to-face conversation as possible without actually having to be physically present, which is a pretty amazing thing. It's a sort of really powerful tool. You can express emotion clearly. It reduces miscommunication. People feel they're building an actual, it's called a parasocial relationship that kind of forms as a result of them seeing your video content. And so when we get started with most real estate agents, we actually have a whole curriculum that we call the Real Estate Video Roadmap. And we start at the beginning. So that's where a lot of people get it wrong. They'll start with really complicated stuff. I want to build a YouTube channel. I want to go, viral on TikTok. And we sort of say, okay, well, how about you send some happy birthday video messages first? Like,
right.
why don't you just say hi in a video to an old friend you haven't seen in a while. And I think a lot of times that's, somewhat mind blowing for people because they just, really haven't thought about starting at that end of the spectrum. Yeah. And that seems to really help, right? So you start at the beginning and we kind of help them work from there. And there's all kinds of fun stuff we do to support them along the way.
Very cool. So if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Nick from bizvideoschool.com. I guess my question, Nick, is when you're working with, it's obviously a school. Is it online school? Is that what it is? So it's online. I got you. Okay. So they're going in and signing up, and then, they're getting training, and you guys help them kind of like sometimes just get out of this scary bubble that they're in of like, I can't do video, or maybe doing stuff that's a little more advanced as well.
Yeah, we sort of run the gamut. The one thing I usually tell people is like, look, if you've already got a YouTube channel with thousands of subscribers, like, we're not really the right place for you. Like there's a few folks out there that are really advanced, they're established, maybe one-on-one coaching or something, we could help them a little. But most of our sort of focus is really the beginners and the intermediates, right? So the folks that are I've only ever made a few videos, I've never made it at all. And then really we like to kind of start from there. And then, so yeah, in terms of what we do in the school, I mean, I don't know that when we started it, so we started about 3 years ago. Really, it was just sort of coincidence. We basically started right as the pandemic hit. So we had piloted a course inside of our video production company at the time where we're actually making videos for agents.
Okay.
And we got really good reviews on it. People were excited about it. Then all of a sudden this pandemic's bearing down on us and we're hearing, hey, lockdowns, you're not going to be able to even meet to make videos for months.
Right.
That kind of pushed us down that path, obviously. So, we started with a single course. At this point, there's 9 different courses. We run monthly video challenges. We split up into teams and we kind of, and we really, it's kind of fun because, you can only earn 1 point. So you get your video done, then your job is to encourage your teammates to do their video. And that's how you win. So there's a lot of accountability, but a lot of fun that goes into that. And then we have something called video recipes, which is a script, but we also record our own version of the video so that our students can watch our delivery style and kind of imitate what we do. Instructions for editing. We include the assets. We write the social media post for them. We even include instructions on using a teleprompter app to just put it on a camera and record it, right? And even just their phone. So, there's just a lot of stuff we do, right? So it's very comprehensive, lots of support. Because the reality is unfortunately, and I am sort of flabbergasted by this, but there's just not a lot of good training on that end of the experience, right? So everybody wants to talk strategy and these big picture, ideas and go make this video and put it on YouTube and run this ad. And, you see these rooms full of folks that are just sort of sitting there like, yeah, but how do I make the video?
Right.
Back to the beginning of all that. And so that's why we started the school, was like, we want to kind of walk people through those processes. So, that's the feedback we tend to get, is that a lot of our students really appreciate that we go step by step. We start at the very beginning. And, we help them realize, like, look, the impact you can have from just sending people video messages, just one person at a time, and just focusing on that really sort of what feels like very simple and basic stuff. The impact is amazing. I mean, you can significantly grow your business and never post a video publicly at all. And then, you grow 30%, you get this many more customers. You can probably hire some different help. And, then you can start to get out there and do that more public facing stuff, which is a lot more intimidating. So I think that's a big part of what we do, right? Is this sort of starting from the beginning, taking one step at a time, giving people a roadmap to follow. Eliminating a lot of the confusion and also taking a lot of that pressure off of them, which in some cases, is built up for years. So that can be quite a relief.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I always tell people, like, content's king, right? So just get your content out there. I mean, because I talk to a lot of people, and I know you do too, Nick, is like they're so worried about how perfect everything is, right? Instead of just getting content out, because the truth is people want to see who you are. Like, right. I mean, they're like, what's your message? Like, for the most part, they don't really care what most of it looks like.
I know. Like, it's crazy the things people worry. Like, my hair is a little out. I'm like, what? How would anybody know your hair's not normally like that? That doesn't even make any sense, And like, but yeah, all kinds of stuff we'll find as sort of excuses, right?
Yeah. So how does video affect the brain, like, differently than other types of content?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because that is really what it comes down to. And I think that's what people don't understand is, this is what I love about video, right? Is that video, I mean, video is sort of the destination for many hundreds of years of the evolution of communication. I mean, if you look at science fiction for many years now, it's like the destination has always kind of been like, hey, we can see the other person. So they're either like a hologram or they're on a screen, or, it's like you look at Star Trek, right? And it's like when they get into these battles, like they're both on the screen and they're talking to each other because they know that's sort of the most intimate form of this stuff. So it's always been coming. I think it's just sort of a matter now of the fact that we see video as a performance, and so we sort of put aside how it could benefit other people. So when you think about it from that perspective, and you think about sort of like, what does this do to the viewer? How does the viewer interpret this? What happens, this is crazy, is basically your brain in a lot of ways doesn't know it's a video. It thinks that person is sitting there in front of you, right? So like consciously, you can see there's a screen, all that is true. But all these non-conscious parts of your brain, they have not evolved to understand that video is separate from a face-to-face conversation. So a lot of if you scan a brain of somebody watching a video, somebody talking to them versus actually having a conversation, the reaction is very, very similar. So there's one part in particular your brain called the fusiform gyrus, which recognizes objects, and it has an area called the fusiform face area, which just recognizes faces. It's like all it does, right? And that is the key, right? That's the part that really differentiates video from other forms of communication, is that, yeah, your words might be there, but your face isn't. And your face is what makes you real to somebody else. So when they can see that face, I mean, because, think about how much communication happens through your face, right? I mean, all your emotions, like, it's very hard to communicate emotion on the written words. Why we invented emoticons and then emojis eventually was to sort of help that. So that's what it does, right? It makes you a real person. And so, I think a lot of people, the struggle that they're having right now is we're still in the early stages of this transition to video as kind of a primary way to talk to people. So they haven't felt the pain that much yet. And that's what I kind of warn them about. It's like, look, if you keep dragging your feet and you keep waiting to get on camera, you're going to start to reach out to people someday, another year from now or two, and they're going to have hired a different agent. You're going to be shocked. Like, I've known you for years. Well, how could this happen? And like, I just feel like I knew this other person better. Like, they've been in front of me more often. And if they go and they dig into it, they're going to realize they've been saying the same things to these people. They're sending the same kind of emails. It's just their competitor was showing up on a camera. So it's the same words. It's the same communication. But because of the way the brain reacts, because it sees that face and because it makes that into what feels like a face-to-face conversation, the trust is established, right? So familiarity breeds trust. It's an automatic thing. The more you show up in front of somebody, the more they're automatically going to know, like, and trust you. And that's what it does, right? So you don't want to wait until you feel that pain. You don't want to go into your database in another year or two and have put all this stuff off. And, so then people you thought were going to hire you have already hired somebody else. You want to get out in front of that and you want to reap that benefit when you're one of the earlier people to do it. But that's hard, right? A lot of times we have to, we got to get kicked in the face a couple of times before we realize, wow, I need to do something different. And that's what wakes us up, So I think we're in that transition at this point.
Cool. So, I mean, I want to dive a little bit, deeper into video in general, because that's obviously why you're here. So, I mean, for people that are just starting out, is there a recommendation for, the type of equipment to get? Obviously the phone is so powerful now, but I'd love to get, what you're telling people, like, because I know a lot of people also that I talk to are like, well, I need to spend, I don't have the money to do this and that.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Well, so here's my rule for equipment. We always tell our students, you buy equipment when you've encountered the problem that the equipment solves, but not before that. Right. So we really, and this maybe isn't true for everything in life, but it's a fairly universal rule. It's like, why would you buy something if you don't know you need it yet? You shouldn't at least. Right. So that's my rule. So really, yeah, it's like, if you've got actually my more recent phone kind of crapped out on me the other day. The screen just stopped working. So I'm on my old phone. This phone is 4 years old, and I've been taking some pictures and video with it while I'm waiting on my new one to come in. And even this phone makes good enough videos, So I was like, this thing's 4 years old. So anything maybe 5 years back at this point that functions correctly, that can record at least 1080p video. Most of those phones have been able to for a while. Yeah. That's really it. You've got a webcam built into your computer. That's another camera. So you don't need a fancy camera. The only thing that you may buy before you sort of get into this too far would be a tripod. And that's just because it gets the phone out of your hands. It gives you a stable shot. It allows you to kind of do things. A lot of people talk with their hands. It kind of frees that up for you. Yeah. Even that, though, I wouldn't buy before you've done a couple of videos. And so I sort of treat equipment as like I have to earn the pieces of equipment that I add. So I would start with nothing. Just do selfie style videos or just do stuff with your webcam. And then if you feel you need, you like the idea of having that second hand free, or you're holding your phone but it's kind of shaky, then I would go for a tripod. You can start with, the basic $10 tabletop tripod. You can just literally sit on your desk right in front of you. Or you can get something just a little bit more, elaborate, that's maybe telescoping that can raise up to a normal size. Again, we're not talking more than $20-25 at that point. Beyond that, then I think it comes down to, so this, and again, this is getting further in. I would be, I wouldn't be buying the next stuff I'm going to say until I probably made, 100 videos. And that's right. A lot of video messages. It doesn't have to be public facing stuff, right? Then you're looking at, in my opinion, there's sort of three things maybe I would consider. I'd look at my lighting, my audio, and my environment, right? So things like, if I want to be lit correctly, I might look into getting just a basic ring light. And again, this is where I said, sort of suggest, take one step at a time, right? Sort of see if the cheaper thing will work, and then buy something a little bit fancier if it doesn't quite work long term. But something like a ring light's a good starting point. You can also go for maybe a softbox light, which is basically just it's a bigger light, and it's got a, sort of a, I don't know, an umbrella around it, and there's usually sort of a screen on the front. That just creates a softer light, sort of a more flattering kind of light. But realistically, if you can just face a window, that's pretty good lighting. It's more about the direction the light is shining versus having to buy products. And the microphones, right? So that also depends on what you're going to do. If you're going to do a lot of just sort of selfie style, video messages, little short TikToks where you're just sort of talking to the camera, like a lapel microphone is fine. Just buy one that goes straight into your phone. Again, you're talking starting at $10-15 a piece, super cheap. But if you're going to go in the direction of, hey, I'm going to shoot, maybe I'm going to do some podcasting, or I'm going to record training videos, or I want something where the microphone's not in my shot, then you're going to spend some more money, right? So you're going to be looking at something like an overhead mic, or one of these podcasting microphones or something. And then the last thing I said was the background, right? That is more of a personal choice, right? So everybody's got a different background, which I think is cool. I like that. And I think when you're looking at that stuff, it's more just about, what are you going for? Do you want something that's subtle? Like, obviously I do a lot of training, so I try to have a backdrop like this. This is actual shiplap on the wall. I nailed up, and then I got a light shining on it. So it's really basic. You can do stuff like that, or you can build up, a little bit more of a studio set, something with some items that maybe kind of reinforce your personality or that you find interesting. But I think the key is just not to make it too distracting, right? So I like having a couple things, something to look at, not just a plain white wall, maybe something a little bit more than that. But you also don't want to create an environment where people are looking all over the place and they can't focus on you. Now that is advanced though. Now we're talking, I would have been doing video for quite a while before I did any of that kind of stuff. So that's a long answer, obviously, but that gives you some ideas and sort of tiers. And again, to reinforce it, don't buy anything to get started. Just make a few videos first.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great advice. I appreciate you just giving us all that info, because I know that's something that people, there's so much out there that people just don't understand. And then when they go buy a bunch of equipment and then they don't understand even how to use it, it just sits there, So,
right. I mean, it's literally a form of procrastination. Like I know people who have, 4 years ago, they told me, oh, I'm getting into video. I'm gonna start doing video. Okay, cool. I bought $4,000 worth of stuff, lights and fancy camera, and and it's like several years later, they never made a video, and I'm like, what happened? You bought all this stuff. Oh, I don't have time to learn how to use it. I'm just like, how do you know how to use this? Just record something with your, come on, so. Yeah, that can be very, and that is very common. The idea of like, I bought a couple things, now those things are keeping me from taking action, so if you fall into that trap at all, like you got to recognize it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So tell me, like from your side of things, like what should small businesses be doing with video? I mean, do you have a recommend? I mean, I know there's a ton of different avenues to take, but
Sure.
and I'm talking not even just real estate. I'm talking about in general.
Right. Well, I think that the reality is a lot of what small business owners especially, are sort of seeing as what they should be doing with video is several steps into the process that I would recommend. Right. So I think that's where a lot of the problem comes. So yeah, they should absolutely be putting video on social media, posting organically. I love video advertising. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunity there. But I really think in the short term, the real opportunity is to just communicate through video, to start sending, so video messages, right? So this is like, let's say, I just got a new customer, and the first thing I'm going to do is send them a pre-recorded video that's an introduction to my business and the processes they're about to go through, right? So I sit down, I record, hey, welcome to our company, and just so you know, here's what's going to happen over the next couple of days as we get your bid together or whatever. Now that we've got your contract in place, here's the next steps that are going to happen.
Right.
And then just build video into the way you talk to your customers, right? So do it with customers, do it with employees. Think about pre-recorded training. Like anytime you do a training with an employee, just record it. Even if it just means you just kind of walk around with a camera on a tripod, you set it down next to you. If you're moving around, or if it's Zoom you're training somebody on, just hit the record button and record it.
Yeah.
And you'll find uses for those things, right? Like it doesn't necessarily mean you'll never train anybody at all, but now they can watch that first, and then you can follow up on that and just answer higher level questions and things like that. So to me, that's what small businesses should be doing immediately, because there's no limitations, right? If I say go run ads, well, you got to be able to run ads. You got to have some money. You might want to make a polished video. You might hire a videographer. I mean, that's all complicated. If I say, go say happy birthday to all your customers on Facebook, but do it through a video message, that's pretty straightforward. There's really nothing to block them from that. And that's part of it, right? Is it's easy to get started with this stuff, but the real reason to do it is the benefit to the customer. I mean, this is the kind of stuff people tell their friends about, right? So you want to talk about generating more referrals. You want to talk about having repeat customers. You want to talk about having customer satisfaction that's just through the roof. You're getting just 5-star review after 5-star review. This is the stuff that does it, because everyone is intimidated by video, right? So
Right.
If I get a video message that's 30 seconds long from a business I'm working with, part of what I'm thinking as I watch that is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person would do this for me, because I'm thinking that would be intimidating. It would be a little bit intimidating to have to get on camera and record something like this. So that will go away, right? That's kind of the urgency part of this, is that if you start doing these things in the short term, not only is it going to help your customers because they're going to understand more of the information, they're going to feel like you're paying more attention to them. All that's always going to be there. But in the short term, because very few businesses are doing this yet, you look that much better, right? So it's the opportunity to be the first, to have a differentiator. And I would say that's going to be one of those like sort of viral word of mouth potential situations in the short term, right? So it's a little counterintuitive, because a lot of people think, oh, I got to try to go viral on social media. Problem with that is a lot of times for small businesses, you're getting views in places you can't do business, right? So you go viral on TikTok, you're getting views from all over the world. A tiny fraction of those people might be able to do business with you. When you start focusing locally, focusing internally, that's going to have an impact every single time you do it. So that's really what we recommend. But that's a little bit against what a lot of the guru types are out there preaching all the time.
Yeah. I've been utilizing video sales letters. I just kind of integrating them into what I do, and they're definitely, I mean, people are blown away by it, because it's still, I mean, there are people using it, but it's still kind of new. So kind of what you said, people are like, wow, I mean, you really want my business because you sent me you sent me a video. So.
Yeah, I love the perception of it. It's like that idea that like you've done something special. And for me at this point, I mean, it's like if I want to send somebody an email and I can just talk into a camera for 2 minutes and hit send, that's a lot less work than writing a 3 or 4 paragraph email with a bunch of details in it,
Yeah.
So like I'm saving time and hassle and saving some of my energy and all this, and then they're appreciating that I did it that way, So it's like, man, there's double wins going on there, which is nice.
Yeah, for sure, man. So what's one of the more important lessons you've learned over your career doing what you do?
Oh man, there's a lot of important lessons. I mean, I think that, to sort of stick with some of the theme here, if it's specific to video, I mean, it's really that. Well, let me put it this way. I think one of the big lessons is that we are, by our very nature, if we don't want to do something, we're going to try to find reasons that it's hard, right? So I think that's what a lot of people have done with video, is that when we are uncomfortable, and almost anything new is going to make us uncomfortable, we're actually drawn to the stories that tell us that there's a reason we're not doing it, right? So this goes outside of video. It's kind of a general lesson that I've tried to internalize. But
Right.
when we look at this stuff, I think that's a big takeaway, is like, if I don't want to do something, I have to ask myself, am I looking at it as complicated? It's like if I don't want to work out, I'm probably thinking, I'm probably telling myself that I need a trainer and I need a plan and I need all this stuff, when really I just had to go for a walk,
Yeah.
So I think it's easy to say like keep it simple or don't overcomplicate things. But that to me kind of takes it a step further, which is like we are choosing to overcomplicate things, so you almost have to kind of you have to think sort of abstractly, kind of remove the fear, and then say like, okay, if this wasn't scary and all I was going to do is take a single step, what would that be? And that kind of completely changes the way you think about things. So that's very applicable to video, but probably useful in other contexts too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So I always try to touch on like careers on my channel, because we have a lot of, younger entrepreneurs, people that are still trying to figure out what they want to do. So if someone wanted to do, what you're doing, what kind of
Right.
what does that look like? Is there like go to school for this, or you learn it on your own, or, what does that
Yeah,
look
yeah,
like?
it's an interesting question. I mean, because I don't know that they don't teach much of this in school anymore, or yet, I guess I should say, not anymore. But um, I think the way to do it would be, if you want to get, so really it's like I teach video, but what I do is I'm a trainer, I mean, I didn't
Hmm.
necessarily expect to be in this role 3 years ago. But it's been a good fit and I enjoy doing it. So I think the key is like, really, it's, you got to get obsessive about a particular thing, right? So it's like I'm obsessive about learning to communicate through video, and I'm not even like, I'm not trying to be an influencer. I mean, I certainly have lots of people who know about me and see me regularly, but that's not my goal. My goal is like, I want to just understand as much as I can about this new way that we talk to each other, and then learn to communicate that to people who do not get exposed to it nearly as often. So I think
Yeah.
that if you want to do that, if you want to be able to teach and speak and sort of have the potential thought leadership position, I think that's the key, right? Is not just understanding something, but really learning how to talk about it and explain it in a way that makes it clear, that helps people really understand it in a simpler sense. And that takes a lot of practice. So I think a lot of it, with what I do specifically, a lot of it is basically public speaking. So I think that of all the things I've probably done, that's probably the one I would recommend the most, is just look for opportunities to speak, and then also opportunities to sort of take on, I think leadership roles can be really helpful there. I mean, I run a school, it's got hundreds of students, so you got to be somebody that the folks will look up to, and then, listen to their authority, and you got to be able to speak with a sense of authority and all that. So
Sure.
I think, I've done a lot of speaking, but I've also run like networking groups. Like I was in a BNI chapter for many years, and I was the president for a couple of years in that time. And that kind of stuff, I think, is a big part of it. So just repetition of public speaking, and then in my specific career, repetition of video. So just doing lots of videos. I probably made I don't know, probably 400 or 500 live videos. I mean, live is great because you can't back out it once you're going. Once you're live, it's
Right.
there, right? So that kind of stuff, I think goes a long way. And then the last thing I'll say is, it's just, we tend to teach people, sort of over the age of 45 or 50, really up into their 70s and even 80s sometimes. A lot of the feedback we get is that we are patient, and we are intentional about the way we teach, right? So we're not just flying through things. If we're doing demonstrations, we're being somewhat methodical, and we're telling people where we're clicking on the screen. And I know that all sounds like kind of very specific, but what I've seen is a lot of people, like, they teach, but they teach very abstractly, and it's very high level. And
Hmm.
people go, wow, cool ideas. And then they always have that question, like, but how do I do it? And I feel
Right.
like if you're trying to teach, and the question at the end is, yeah, but how do I do that? You kind of failed at teaching those people. That's kind of the point of teaching them, right? So I think that's for us, and that's just not me. That's our whole team. That's a real big focus of ours, is sort of how do we make sure that we're not just trying to sound cool, is how I would talk about that, right? But so we're going to talk in very plain language. We're going to talk at a very straightforward level. We're going to move through things, quickly and consistently, but also with intention. So yeah, I mean, I think of all that stuff, though, I would try to get a lot of opportunities to speak in front of people, because that's going to be the thing that helps you the most in my experience.
Yeah. Great. Great. Thank you for that. Thanks for the answer. And it's
Sure.
funny that you ended on that of getting a lot of opportunity to speak in front of people. I think
Right.
that's the forgotten thing today, especially with our younger folks. They can't
Sure.
communicate, and and it's hard because people don't understand you're selling yourself when you're communicating, right? So anything you
Right.
do is based off of communication, and it's failing. We're failing at it these days. But anyway,
Well,
sorry, I
it's
wanted to throw my 2 cents in there.
well, no, but I mean, that's an interesting point, because I think because this comes up all the time. Most of our students have children themselves. And I always point out, I'm like, well, but how do they do when they get on video? Like, how do they communicate through video? And a lot of these younger people, like, they're actually more comfortable communicating through a video message. So they'll get on Snapchat and they'll record, and it's
Right.
asynchronous. It's not live. So a lot of it's, hey, here's what I'm doing. What are you up to? 10 minutes later, they get a response, right? And so, and it's like, so yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely seeing sort of a problem there because we're still going to be in person with each other. We're not just going to be all locked in our rooms the rest of our lives. But that to me is also sort of a sign that like the way we talk is changing, and if we want to be in business in another 10 years, we got to get used to that shift. And yeah, there's going to be some people that you'll send them video messages and they'll love it and they'll communicate that way. And you'll ask them to grab coffee and they'll be like, nah, I don't want to do that. Like that just makes me uncomfortable. But yeah, I mean, exposure, right? It's sort of exposure therapy. So if you want to be on camera, you want to be teaching people, the more you just do it, the more you get in front of audiences. And I will say, I'll add this because this one kind of came up this week. If you want to get good at public speaking, try volunteer to go speak at colleges. And it's way easier than you might think. So like there's all kinds of classes that if you have a little bit of expertise in an area and you're willing to come in and do a guest lecture for 50 minutes or something, they'll eat it up. They'll love it. They'll say yes. It's not hard to get booked. And college students, they're the hardest group to talk to, I will say. It's like you get some people falling asleep in the corner, all kind of stuff. It's like you want to trial by fire, get into one of these schools and teach these kids for 50 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to go back a little bit because we talked about earlier about equipment, for video, but like from your experience and your expertise, what's the number one thing that you would need to be done? That's best. Is it lighting? Is it microphone? Is it camera? What do you think on that?
Well, I think number one is audio, actually. So there's a lot of research on the fact that if you have a video that's hard to watch, but the audio is clear, people will actually watch that longer than if it's the other way around. So if I can see you clearly, but it's hard to understand you, I'm going to duck out sooner. Okay. So I think that's the first thing, right? I think that's the one that, and it's not hard to get right. The rule with audio is just don't be too far away from the microphone. This is why like you go to a concert and you see the singer and they basically have the microphone in their mouth because, they're trying to get as close as they can to their mouth, to their voice where the sound's coming from. Right. So that, that's pretty simple. If you're doing selfie style, like you're probably good, but that's where you might want to consider getting a mic is if the camera gets further and further away. So the microphone's further from you, but I would always start with audio and kind of dialing that in. Then I think second is probably lighting. Lighting is in lighting, somebody's going to watch your video even if it's not lit, perfectly, right? But lighting is the area where I find the largest percentage of people don't like how they look, right? So that's going to you're not going to share your video, you're not going to promote it if you don't like how you look, right? It's going to make you uncomfortable. So the real rule with lighting that a lot of people don't understand is the direction of the light. So in fact, in most rooms, if you're in an office, at home, wherever it is, if you actually turn off the overhead lights and just face a window, and you don't want the light necessarily blasting directly through it, like, the blinds could be closed a little. It's even better if it's a cloudy day, right? So like indirect light is really, really kind of ideal. For most people, that will make you look substantially better. I mean, the problem is the light shining directly down from above is like the least flattering light you can possibly get. It's probably worse if you shine from underneath, but that's, you're never going to get light like that, right? So in our houses and our offices, like in all these environments, the light is shining from above. So that's not good. You want to either turn that off or overpower it with another source of light that's shining toward your face from in front of you. And then, obviously you can get fancy, move the lights around, have multiple lights. I mean, that's getting into, a whole nother level of production. But those would be the two things that are most important. Cameras. I mean, at this point, like we do not teach almost anything on higher level cameras in our school, and no one ever asks anymore. A year or two ago, we were getting more, should I get a DSLR? Should I get a, and we use that stuff by all means, like I'm using a DSLR camera right now. But the truth is, like, both the webcams that are built into the computers and the cameras in our phones have gotten so good that it is very hard to suggest somebody get something else unless they're really doing, high level or, they're doing a lot of like home video walkthroughs and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's really kind of interesting. Like, I don't think I've had a single question about like a nicer, higher level camera in maybe a year. And I've had questions about webcams, right? But not the DSLRs and stuff like that. So I mean, at this point, it's like, if you're even getting to that level, you might want to just look into what it would cost to pay a local videographer to come record some videos with you, because you might be able to get a couple videos made for the price of buying the camera. And I just from firsthand experience, these cameras have a lot of features, a lot of settings. It's a lot to have to think about, so it's a whole nother set of learning curve. that it's just becoming less and less worth it. It's kind of like gimbals went over the past couple of years, 2-3 years ago. Like everybody wanted to have a gimbal, they wanted to get the stable footage, and then they started just building technology into the cameras and the phones that would smooth out your footage without it. And now nobody needs a gimbal anymore, so it's these high-end cameras are kind of going the same direction.
Yeah. So that makes me wonder, and I've always, almost every interview, AI comes up. So I'm wondering, in your industry, are you guys using AI? Are you seeing AI more in the video side? What's feedback on that?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, we're using it to write scripts.
Cool.
Very helpful for writing scripts. I mean, you can get, you want a bunch of ideas, just go to ChatGPT and just ask it for whatever you want, and it'll usually do it. So scripts, that's a huge one. We use it internally for creating, some guides and some written content, things like that, writing a few blog posts and things along those lines. So then in terms of what you can do with it on a video specific perspective, there is a company, at least one, there might be a couple now, that can. So the one I know of is called Synthesia, Synthesia, I believe it is. And they'll have you do this whole like pre-scripted routine. You record like a 10-minute version of yourself saying a bunch of different words, and then they can create an AI version of you, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's like $1,000, and they create this, sort of deep fake almost version of you. It's not 100% convincing, but it gives you a version of you that you can just type whatever you want into, and then it'll say it in your own voice with your own face and body. It's pretty trippy. So that technology, I mean, it's only getting better, and I think it's just another year or two before it pretty much looks just like you. And there's it'd be sort of hard to tell the difference. And I don't know. I mean, I think that I'm uncomfortable with the idea that there's a version out there of me that somebody else could use, right? So like that, that's the part that kind of holds me back from doing that. I also think reality is like we all just need to get comfortable on camera and learn to talk to each other this way, because there are so many ways to use it. And I think it will be a crutch for some people that make this AI version of themselves that just never learn to talk into a camera, and that will eventually backfire. But that being said, I mean, this idea of being able to create like a video chat bot that's basically you, or maybe you intentionally make it look more like a cartoon so people know it's not actually you, but then they can go to your website and interact with this thing that kind of reminds them of you, and it's still sort of maybe building that relationship a little. I mean, there's definitely some interesting aspects of that. And then I'll also, I think shifting in the direction of like, it's not as popular right now anymore, but like, the VR and the AR aspect of this too.
Right.
I could see that being a big thing over the next couple of years. People, especially in real estate, being able to put a headset on and just tour a house with an agent there with you virtually, and they never have to leave where they are, and you don't have to leave where you are. Definitely some interesting stuff there. But yeah, I mean, AI, it's just stuff's potentially changing in, almost any industry in the way we do things, So right now, like what we're doing with it is we're actually just writing lots and lots of video scripts. And so we're creating all these guides with all these different video scripts that we use these chatbots to at least help us write. A lot of them are edited or redrafted after that. But that's, I mean, yeah, I'll tell you, of all the things I've done with it so far, like if you need an idea, like that's one of the hardest parts, right? Is what do I want to talk? What am I going to make a video about? What am I going to talk about? I mean, what I would recommend is like understand your customer avatar, like have a clear sense of that ideal customer, and then just feed that to ChatGPT, tell it who you are, where you're based, what you do, and say, okay, based on that information, what should I make a video about? And you'll be shocked at how many great ideas it'll give you. So that's probably my favorite use for it right now.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I just wanted to throw that in there because I'm always interested in how people are using AI. So you mentioned VR, and I mean, is VR being used in the real estate world? Are you seeing that at all?
To some degree. What I feel like I see a lot in the real estate industry is a lot of this new technology, like a segment of the industry gets really excited about it and, wants to go out and use it. Yeah. And then sort of the majority of agents seem to see it sort of fearfully and kind of downplay it and things like that. So it just depends on the segment you're looking at. And I don't know, not that much yet. I mean, I do think that there are some people that are really leaned into it and are trying to do as much as they can there. But the place that I think VR or sort of AR even is going to have the biggest impact is in the sale of the home, right? So allowing people to come, tour it virtually and and the reality is right now, it's not that hard to sell a house. It's that there's still like the market's slowed, but there's still a lot of demand for every single there's still like we have a, construction shortage. Like we need to build like several million more homes and we just haven't. Right. So that's going to continue to happen. And until that imbalance gets fixed and supply goes up and it takes a little longer to sell a house, like I just don't think a lot of those tools, they're not as necessary. Right. So it's like, if I can just take a few pictures, record a walkthrough video, throw it up on the MLS and Zillow, and then I get 20 people wanting to come through it within a week because there's just not that many houses available. I don't need to get fancy with VR and AR yet, So I think that's going to be a push for like the that doesn't mean they're not using it, right? There's plenty of these sort of 3D scans like that. That's kind of a version of VR, and you can walk through it and look at it on your computer, but you can also put the headset on and actually see it in 3D. And there are a lot of people that have bought homes that way. I mean, they haven't even seen them, and they bought them without ever stepping foot through the door. And I, before the pandemic, knew of one or two stories like that. And since the pandemic, I know of hundreds of stories like that. So I think it sort of shifted people's attitudes about those kinds of things. But that all being said, I think we're just at the very tip of it. And it's hard to tell. I mean, a house is that's a huge purchase, and I think people, it's very intimate and there's a lot of concern, understandably. And so it's a very high touch industry. People get to know their agents pretty well, usually through that process. And so it's been interesting because there's a lot of new entries. There's a lot of disruptors that come into the real estate industry and really try to shake up how it works. And it's not changed much, I mean, I studied a lot, and it just doesn't hard to shake. We had all these iBuyers came out. Zillow was doing iBuying, and Open Doors obviously gotten really big, and they've eaten up a segment of the market, but it just didn't take over, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna. So I don't know. It's an interesting industry. It hasn't changed much in quite a long time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the house I'm in now, we bought without seeing it. We were not here. Basically just a video. So without a good video, you
right.
You really can't see much. So
no, the video, I mean, it goes a long way, and I think that's there's always you think about like the law of diminishing returns, right? So it's like the first time something's introduced, it's a major improvement, and then they upgrade it, and it's a decent improvement. And I think of like 8K TV versus 4K, and I'm kind of like, why would I ever even need it? Because I won't even see it. And so I think that what I see is like, you had pictures, and you need pictures on the internet to sell a house. So you gotta be able to see what it looks like. Then the video is a pretty decent step forward, because now you can sort of get that sense of what it's like to walk around through the house and sort of be there. And then you've got the VR. And so I think that's where we're starting to see these, every additional step is a less of a significant improvement. And so that's why I think the VR stuff isn't catching on quite as fast. Because if you got a video and you've got the pictures, do you need a 3D scan of the house? You need that stuff, and most people, at least for now, don't. And so I think it's kind of stopped at that point right now. But we are seeing lots of walkthrough videos still.
Oh yeah, definitely. They'll see those everywhere. So I always ask people, do you have any books that you recommend that the audience should check out?
Any books? Let's see. What have I read recently? Well, I do have let's see, there's one over here that I think about a lot, which is it's called Blue Ocean Strategy. That one's sort of it's a very specific book, but it's basically about the idea of when you're starting a business from scratch, thinking about a way of creating your own market, so instead of going out there and positioning yourself as just another of a business amongst many, which that they call it a red ocean, because there's a lot of blood in the water because everybody's fighting each other for the business. And so it's, obviously their examples are things like, Google creating the search marketplace, and, companies like Facebook creating the social media marketplace. But I also find that with strategic branding, you can also do the same thing in a very localized sense, so that's a fun, it's a very sort of technical book. I think it's written by some professors. But it's an interesting theory. It's one of those books that probably doesn't need to be a whole book. I mean, you probably kind of got the idea already just from me explaining it. But I've always that's one I sort of just keep coming back to, and kind of keep asking myself, like, how do I position what we're doing as a new thing, which for us is not that hard, because there just literally aren't any other schools that teach this yet, so like we have it easy. But for small businesses, like, you can do that by I mean, honestly, one of the easiest things right now is just be the first to really embrace video in your community, right? And then you're we're the first painter in St. Louis to really use video, and like that, you just own that, and that's what you are, and then you're different. Now you do something completely different, right? So anyway, I'm kind of explaining the book, which is probably not the point. You should go read it, but that one I've always found pretty interesting.
Very cool. Very cool. So we're talking with Nick from bizvideoschool.com. So if you're interested in video, and I definitely would go check out their website. Very good website. Lots of info on there. And you guys do more than just I saw that you do a lot of different things. It's not just go learn a little bit about video. I mean, you guys are doing a lot of different things.
Yeah, it's, because video is a form of communication. I mean, you got to touch on so much else, so we talked about, marketing. I mean, my background's marketing. So obviously we approach a lot of this from sort of a marketing perspective, but I was teaching a class today. We were talking about time management, because if you're going to have the time to do the videos, you got to have a good structure for your schedule. And so we talk on a lot. So yeah, I think it's, if you got to want to learn video, because that's our primary focus. That's what our school is all about. But if that is there for you, you're going to get a lot more than that. You're going to definitely learn a lot about just the right ways to run a business, the right ways to talk to other people. Honestly, getting comfortable and confident on camera is an incredible way just to grow your own self-esteem. We don't really focus on that, obviously, but it certainly does that. So yeah, we definitely cover quite a bit, and wouldn't be surprised if you see some improvements in other areas of your business or life, for that matter. Yeah,
great. So I always ask this question, and it stumps people sometimes, but I'm going to ask you. So is there a question that I haven't asked you that you want me to ask you, or you're wishing that I would have asked?
Well, not necessarily. I think we kind of touched on all the big stuff. It's interesting because a lot of times somebody would sort of ask about like TikTok or YouTube or short form, but I don't actually feel like that's important to talk about, because I think a lot of people are already talking about that stuff. So no, I actually think we covered all the stuff I would have wanted to go over. So I appreciate that.
Okay, good. So you can tell me the truth if I didn't. So let me know.
That's good. I would. I would. If I had something I want to talk on, don't worry. I would tell you.
So where can our listeners find you at online? I know bizvideoschool.com probably has all your stuff, but is there other places that people can connect directly with you?
Sure. Yeah. So I personally love to connect with people on LinkedIn or Facebook, either of those two. So I'm a little old school. I know most people are like, hey, go follow me on Instagram or whatever. But I like that sort of two-sided experience, connecting with folks that way. And that's where I post most of my content. It's what I'm used to using, and it's where most of our customers spend their time. So that's where you can find me. So yeah, if you just look up, it's Nick Niehaus, Niehaus. If you look me up on LinkedIn or Facebook and send me a connection request, I'll talk to you there for sure.
Yeah, and we do have all his contact info in the description of the video if anybody is wanting to connect with him directly. So Nick, I appreciate you coming on this evening, with sparing some time, because I know you're a busy guy, and just educating us on the video world. I know we could probably talk for hours,
right? Of course,
on all kinds of different marketing techniques and things like that. But I like what you brought to the table of the simplicity of it, of like, hey, quit overthinking it and start moving. And that's something I think people are missing. They're like, it's got to be perfect. I don't have the right equipment. And I just like that you reinforce that you don't need all that. Like, just do something. So appreciate that.
Yeah. Cool. Happy to share. That's it. No, that's, I think that's that. That would be my takeaway too, which is, I think it's, don't procrastinate by learning more. We teach, right? But I also tell people that all the time, like, look, after our first class, you're going to go make a video, and that's the part that matters, not sitting through the 1 hour class, So yeah, I think, I would say anybody listening to this, anybody watching, go send somebody a happy birthday video message, 10 seconds, just say happy birthday. Don't promote your business at all. do that a few times and just see what happens. And come back and let us know if you don't want to go do some more video after that.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. Let's end it on that, Nick. Thank you so much for joining. Everyone, make sure you go check out bizvideoschool.com. If you're on the bubble of like video, I'm nervous, I don't know what to do, then go sign up for their school and get some training and get some confidence. Nick, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you being on tonight, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Take care. All right, that was Nick with bizvideoschool.com. Make sure you guys go support him. I mean, obviously he's very knowledgeable. One thing about him is he understands the marketing side as well. So I know that's a big thing with video today. It's like, okay, I'm gonna make these videos, but what do I do? So he could probably, guide you in that direction as well. So guys, that's it for me tonight. Thank you for tuning in to the Biz Pulse. Looking forward to seeing you. We have done some pre-recorded stuff as well, so I'll be getting more content out to you as it comes available. And just thank you for the support. Please subscribe to the channel, share the videos, and hopefully you're getting as much out of it as I do. Have a great one, and we'll talk soon.